Hi to those of you who have opted in to the instructor video critique. First of all, I just want to applaud you on taking an extra minute to upload your drafts here. Hopefully you'll receive some really helpful advice that will be able to help you to continue to perfect those drafts. I'll probably have two videos here, so this video, we'll see how many we get through, but we'll go ahead and just dive right in. We will go ahead and start with you, Madai. I'm not quite sure if I'm saying your name right, so let me know if not, okay? All right, so this is the first time I've seen these, so it might take a minute for me to look over them. Okay, let's see, you're off to a good start. I can tell you have a lot of what you need. Remember, you do need to have taken these images yourself, okay? So my guess is this image was not taken by you and neither was this one. So make sure you switch these out for images that you took yourself, all right? Another thing I'm thinking, I'm going to pull this down here, is here it looks like this would be a little bit, whatever you do with the image, it's usually better if it's close to being a full bleed to just totally make it a full bleed. So one of the things that sticks out to me is I would definitely pull this down, make this image a little bit better, bigger, so it just totally bleeds right off the edge of the page, okay? You're doing a good job with your columns. You have your subheadings in here. This font, I'm going to say that it's not one of my favorites. It pops up a lot. It's one of those default ones that shows up on InDesign, Illustrator, Microsoft Word. So I would urge you to try to switch it out for something that you find on dafont.com. Here is, let's see, I can jump over here. And try to see if you can find something that's similar in kind of having a form of contrast because you have your columns. This is a nice sans serif that you're using down here. So you're looking for something up here that probably has a serif or that is even a fully decorative font. So here's where the serifs live. Any of these would probably be really nice. Let me see if I can make these a little bit smaller. Okay, see how these are kind of like mermaid. It's kind of similar to your design, but it's just a little bit more fresh, a little bit something different. Same as these, this is a nice, really cool modern serif, any of these, okay? And then maybe you want to go decorative, which in that case, you could come over here and maybe go with a font. If you click on decorative, it might get really crazy. These are probably a little bit too crazy, although that's not horrible. Let's see, I know there's a script. Okay, yeah, so you could go handwritten. These are good ones to look through. Okay, or a few in here. You still want it to be legible, all right? So make sure you're paying attention to that. But besides that, I would just work on having this font be something a little bit that pushes the what you know and what you're used to a little bit more. Right now, everything on this page is centered, which is okay, but it's a little bit boring. We want to try to challenge ourselves in this design class, make things bigger than you think they need to be, and kind of break this rule of centering things. So maybe you have your title right aligned. Maybe you come up with something a little bit, maybe there's is called more than emergency preparedness, or even if it's not, maybe you keep emergency big and bold in a font. Maybe it's in a font like this, and then underneath it, you have preparedness in this font or something. I like the idea that you have them in different colors, but there needs to be a little bit more contrast going on here. And then maybe your image, you make it even bigger, and it's kind of flowing off the page. Maybe it's up here. You have some nice white space. Now remember, one of the principles that we talked about at the beginning of the semester was trapped white space. That's kind of what you have going on here. You actually have a good amount of white space, but this orange border is trapping your white space. It's unable to flow off the page. And so it's creating kind of a 1990s newsletter feel instead of a cool, modern, could run into ensign feeling. All right, so maybe you could have an orange border up top, or you could keep this kind of gradient. I would pull this off the edge too. If you're going to have it this close, pull all of these full bleed, take it totally off the edge of the page. Maybe you just have orange on the bottom and you get rid of this, because we don't really need these if your font and your images are super powerful. Okay, so play around with that. Try to see what you can do to make it pop off the page even more. This font, same thing. It's the same as that one up there. It's just kind of dated, not really exciting. I'd love to see you switch it out for whatever you decide to do your title in. Your columns are looking good. I would increase the amount of space between these a little bit. It's a little bit too tight. Okay, oh, here's a title. Learning and Latter-day Saints. So that would actually be way more interesting than emergency preparedness. All right, so I would remove Learning and Latter-day Saints from down here. Just delete this because we're pretending this is an article in Ensign, so you don't need to attribute it to the Ensign. All right, so take the title Learning and Latter-day Saints, and that's what you want to have up here. So maybe learning is really big. You know, maybe it's like almost from here to here, and then and Latter-day Saints could be all in caps, this sans serif tucked halfway, right aligned, something like that. All right, so play around pushing that boundary. Then you can delete this part from down here. You don't even need that. All right, so I would increase the amount of width between these columns. This is all right, and I'd actually make this type quite a bit smaller. All right, right now that type is probably a 12 or maybe a 13, or maybe it's an 11, but the type in this particular font is large. So make this type smaller. That's really going to help modernize it. It's also going to allow you to have more white space on this page. So make this quite a bit smaller. When this gets smaller, you can keep your headings large, and then you're going to be able to have more room between these columns, and you're also going to be able to maybe make this image bigger. All right. Remember to always have a 1/2 inch of width between where your writing ends and where the edge of the page is. All right, so I would pull this over a little bit more and just give yourself a little bit more room to breathe. You could perhaps even make this pull quote a little bit bigger if you have more room. All right, so I want to see more white space on this page, and making those columns and making that typeface a little bit smaller is really going to help you with that. Be sure on the paragraph palette you have hyphens turned off. All right, we always want to remove those hyphens. And then I'm trying to think if there's anything else I would recommend. I think those are the main things. You could perhaps make the colors a little bit more consistent. I mean, they are consistent, but let's see, red, orange, green, yellow. So that's not really anything particularly on the color wheel. Red, orange, green, yellow. I'm trying to think if that's... They're all kind of on that side together. Red, orange, green, yellow. So they're all over here. But instead, maybe you could use red, and then maybe you do like a split complementary. Okay, you use red and then you use yellow and blue or something. Or maybe you get rid of them. But you're probably using too many of these colors for it to have a really effectively pop kind of color scheme. Okay, so I like the orange. I would probably keep this orange, but maybe eliminate this. I'm guessing this is a green or this is a yellow. Honestly, you don't need to add in too much of this background color. If your images are big, your subheadings are nice. If you go back to that video that I made kind of showing you how to do the spreads from last Monday, look at the size of my columns there and the amount of white space on the page and how big the images are. Okay, and that's really going to help take you to the next level. You have all of the things that you need to have on here. Just doing those extra bits to add some visual contrast is what's going to take this and make it look even better. Okay, so that's it for my advice. You did a really good job getting everything on there. I might make sure these headings probably should not be justified. See how this one's not justified and this one's not justified and they don't look weird, but this heading is justified so it looks odd? Be sure to turn that one off, okay? So that is it for me. Alrighty, thanks.